But remember, Unnatural Vegan is citing these unknown dietitians to me. I don't know who they are. I know who the World Health Organization is, but these dietitians of hers recommend a whopping 58 grams. I mean, who are these people and why?
So Ryan criticizes me for not using more reputable sources. And yet, what was his source for the 5% protein requirement exactly? Well, I did a little bit of Googling.
I did a little Googling? And found out it comes from?
And I found that it comes from a 2007 article from Dr. John McDougall.
If I'm hearing this right, Unnatural Vegan is actually assuming that Ryan got that 5% figure from an 8-year-old article on the interwebs written by Dr. McDougall. This is an assumption. This is a big leap she's making, which is very unscientific. Debunked. Even if it was McDougall, we all know his name. More reputable. Debunked, too. Could she be this stupid? This dogmatic? Let's see here. What would happen when people watch her videos? They might hear that to be a successful vegan, you need to eat a sufficient amount of beans, maybe every day. And some people can't handle beans. Some people have many different problems with it. And so they can't eat beans. So they can't be a vegan according to Dr. Swayze. The face of veganism has spoken. And look, she's got a lot of subscribers, so she must know what she's talking about. So, hey, we can forget about veganism. So Ryan accuses her of not having reputable sources. She doesn't prove that wrong, because her sources are not reputable. And then shows his aren't reputable by doing a little Googling and finding out. And then she says, Ryan's calling the kettle black on top of all that. She's getting them from these two people who are dietitians who couldn't get a job at Weight Watchers or something. So they went on the internet and got a website from GoDaddy or something like that. And knowing the trick of getting attention and making money by making up fake numbers and pissing people off. Okay, I'm adding in more footage here to cover the protein percentage debate. Here's a clip from Swayze.
Should aim for more than 0.83 grams per kilogram of body weight per day, and of course that means certainly much more than 5% of total calories per day.
Well, it actually depends on how many calories you're eating. Unnatural Vegan is focused on the percentage, but not considering what it's going to be a percentage of. So the more you eat, the more that 5% is going to add up and could get to the 56 grams that Unnatural Vegan's talking about. This is why Hardly and Freely have always recommended 3,000 calories a day. And Freely dropped it as low as she could safely drop it to 2,500 because a lot of people can't eat that much. And eating that much depends on exercise. This is why Doug Graham has always said, if you're not doing plenty of exercise, you are not doing the 80-10-10 diet. People like to focus on food, but forget about exercise. And the reason exercise is important on this diet is when you exercise, it increases your need for calories. Now let's say you just can't get enough calories. Say you can't get up to like 2,500. But if you are one of those people who can't get to 2,500 calories, you still don't have to worry. And here's why. I'm going to get into some science and references now. And just using the things I have laying around, like this book. As you can imagine, this book goes extensively into protein. But since a lot of people have some emotional issues with this book, well, I got another book. I got this one from 1985. I was reading this book back in the early 90s, the mid-90s, and I always got the impression that Harvey Diamond was a doctor. But it's even better than that. He's not a doctor. Okay, so chapter 9 is protein. 20 pages on protein. Well, I'll be quick. Hitting the highlights. First sentences. Probably the most frequently asked question in the area of diet, health, and weight loss is, where do you get your protein? 1985. Some things never change. That propaganda settles in deeply into the psyche. The fear of dying in this country doesn't begin to compare with people's fear of not getting enough protein. The problem, however, is not how to get enough, but how not to get too much. I was just reading this a few minutes ago, and it's amazing. Haven't we heard that before? Don't we hear that in our community today? A lot of protein worries stem from the 70s book, Diet for a Small Planet. But later on, author Francis Moore-Levy said, I went overboard on the precision angle. I was trying to please all the doctors and nutritionists. Politics. To be sure, the book was beyond scientific reproach. I think I made people too self-conscious about combining proteins. Be relaxed with it. Most of us don't need to worry about protein anyway. But I happen to like this book. It's very scientific and logical. And since Swayze is such a big fan of footnotes, she should really like this. So check it out. In her words, it's very good. The need for protein has been greatly exaggerated by market forces. Protein functions have been misrepresented. How much protein do we need? Official guidelines recommend 10%. Oh, yeah. Now you might be saying, 10% is double 5%. Well, keep watching. Keep reading until you get it. Sometimes I wonder whether the official nutritional guidelines for calorie nutrient consumption are intentionally vague and confusing in order to better serve influential market sources.
We don't need as much protein as we've been educated to believe we need. Our protein needs are at their highest when we're infants, pretty much when we're first born, because that's when we're growing most rapidly. The most perfect food for a growing infant is mother's milk. Mother's milk is maximum, I think, about 8% protein.
Official guidelines are vague because they recommend between 10 and 35%. Despite the advertising hype of the meat and dairy industries, which are very powerful and rich and influential, and have influenced our society and our science, humans require an extraordinarily low amount of protein in their diets. Many official groups, including the World Health Organization, where have we heard that before?
I know who the World Health Organization is, but these...
Yeah, the World Health Organization. And a footnote. The U.S. National Academics Institute of Medicine, footnote. And the National Research Council, another footnote, suggest that eating a mere 10% of our total calories as protein is sufficient. The World Health Organization, and here's where you can download the parts, and I got part number 5.1, protein 10 to 15%, with another footnote. The 15% is considering that these are three big groups, three big organizations, and so you're going to have a range and it's going to go up, not down. But still that 10%, they're saying that 10% is sufficient. You still might be saying, but that's double of the 5% that Swayze was talking about. Well, I also want to mention that 5% is like the lowest you could possibly eat, because the average fruit is about 7 or 8% protein. On to the next section, which is 10% protein, includes a wide safety margin. The organizations that set these guidelines build into their numbers a margin of safety that increases the recommendations substantially, often nearly double. The 1989 RDA for protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram a day. There's Swayze's numbers. So she's going by the RDA. Doesn't she know better than that? And that figure was designed to meet the needs of 98% of a normally distributed population. But the safety margin is for that 2 or 3% of people who have some kind of condition where they can't absorb protein efficiently or something, so they need more. So you got to cover that. This is what they don't tell you. Who doesn't want people to know that? In his book, The China Study, renowned Cornell University professor of nutritional biochemistry, T. Colin Campbell, states that we require only 5 to 6% of our total calories to come from protein. 10% has been recommended for 50 years, Swayze, to be assured that most people at least get their 5 to 6% requirement. Footnote. I'd say that's a good resource. This renowned PhD with his 50-year career in the field, that quack. Now here's an eating day of mine that doesn't include any grain, no protein foods. And I do get a low number of 37 grams of protein. Sometimes I get up to 45 grams. And I've been getting this for the last 6 years. And I have not had any protein issues. I don't even get up to 3,000 calories.
Up until this point, I've been like, yeah, you know, 80, 10, 10, they're all like the... And you know, it's actually not radical, it's sensible, it actually makes sense, it makes sense. And I've been doing this raw thing for about 2 years now, and this is the first time that I've really started to experiment properly with 80, 10.
So to wrap up this long video, I think The Who did sum this up very well with their song, "We Won't Be Fooled Again." If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you think I'm giving you some information you can actually use to increase your confidence in eating a vegan diet, then subscribe to this channel's future and subscribe to your future as a vegan. And if you think the other 99% of this community should see my videos instead of hers, and even people outside the community, like the rest of the world, then click the Add To button, which is right next to the Share button, and put it in one of your playlists, or create a playlist. It's real easy. And it's actually one of the easier things to do on YouTube. Easy. Click the Share button and share it on social media of your choice. And if you're not signed up with anything, you can always use Google+. You're already signed up, because Google or YouTube made it that way. I'll see you next time.